Mercedes just did the impossible. They finished testing a full day early, logged more laps than anyone else on the grid, and now the FIA has released evidence that confirms what everyone was afraid of. George Russell's new car is not just fast, it's dangerously consistent. The W17 didn't just beat expectations. It outperformed its own simulator. And here's the craziest part: Russell set his best lap while running a full race simulation. No quali mode. No soft tires. No push lap. If this is how good the Mercedes is before Bahrain, imagine what it'll do when they turn everything on. Stick around, because the data the FIA just published could be the start of Mercedes' biggest comeback in years. From the outside, it looked simple. Another cold week in Barcelona. No live timing. No media frenzy. Just cars, data, and silence. But inside the Mercedes garage, something was happening. Something no one expected. While teams like Red Bull and Ferrari ran through endless test cycles, Mercedes moved with surgical precision. 3 days. 2 drivers. Hundreds of laps. And then, they just left. 1 day early. No breakdowns. No public explanations. Just quiet confidence. People assumed they'd cut the test short due to problems. But the truth was the opposite. Because behind the scenes, Mercedes wasn't playing catch-up. They were already ahead. And now, with the FIA publishing the official test data, we finally know why. The W17 didn't just meet expectations. It shattered them. And the driver at the center of it all? George Russell. Because while everyone was watching Lewis Hamilton's debut in red, Russell was putting down laps that the simulator didn't even predict. Laps that told Mercedes one thing: the new car is ready. Here's what we know. George Russell set a lap time of 1 minute, 16.445. Fast. Very fast. Just a fraction behind Hamilton's best lap in a completely different car. But here's the twist. Russell wasn't even pushing. This wasn't a qualifying simulation. He wasn't on soft tires. He wasn't running minimum fuel. He was in race trim with fuel, tire management, energy conservation, the works. And still, he posted one of the fastest times of the week. So naturally, people asked, how? The answer came straight from the FIA's published telemetry. Throttle application? Smooth. Consistent. Full on at the right places. ERS deployment? Perfectly timed. Controlled. No drop-offs. Braking zones? Shorter. Cleaner. Minimal corrections. In short, Russell didn't just look quick. He looked in sync with the car. And the engineers noticed. Because this level of control on a new generation car with an entirely reworked hybrid system isn't normal. Especially not on day 2 of testing. But that's not even the most shocking part. According to internal Mercedes simulations, the W17 was not supposed to be this fast yet. The car outperformed their virtual models. Telemetry from Russell's laps showed more energy recovery than predicted, more rear-end stability, and crucially, less tire degradation. Which means this wasn't just a fast lap. It was a message. The W17 has already eclipsed expectations. And George Russell might be the one unlocking its full potential before anyone else even realizes what's coming. Russell is not a dramatic driver. He doesn't exaggerate. He doesn't hype headlines. So when he pulled into the garage after one of his longest race sims and calmly said, "It feels natural. Predictable. Stable in the rear. It's doing what I want it to do." The room went quiet. That's not what drivers say during winter testing. Not with new regulations. Not with hybrid systems still being figured out. But Russell wasn't just comfortable. He was in control. And for Mercedes, that's exactly what they've been missing since 2021. Because ever since the ground effect era began, Mercedes drivers have fought the car more than the competition. Porpoising, balance swings, rear-end instability. Drivers couldn't push. Engineers couldn't tune. Confidence disappeared. But this time, Russell wasn't guessing. He was driving with clarity. And when he explained the car's behavior through high-speed corners, describing how the aero balance remained consistent without aggressive steering inputs, Mercedes' lead performance engineer called the data eerily perfect, because it matched their best-case simulation model, which, up until now, they had never achieved on track. And here's what makes it even more powerful. Russell didn't ask for major setup changes. He didn't complain about brake feel. He didn't second-guess the car's behavior under throttle. He just kept driving. Kept running long stints. Kept delivering feedback that made the data team blink twice. For a team that has spent the last 2 seasons chasing stability, this is gold. And it might be the moment Mercedes realized something no one expected. George Russell is no longer the backup plan. He's the driver they can build around. The question now is, will they? It began with Red Bull. Engineers hanging just a little too long near pit exit. Photographers aiming their lenses toward the W17's rear suspension. Mechanics from other teams pretending to check tire blankets, while glancing sideways at Russell's telemetry screens. Because when a team finishes their full test program a day early, without a single reliability failure, you take notice. And when their driver, who isn't the 7-time world champion, who isn't the headline name, starts posting elite-level consistency, you get nervous. And Mercedes could feel it. Not in what the competition said, but in what they didn't say. No jokes. No mind games. Just quiet recalibration. Aston Martin delayed their long-run data release. McLaren reran their energy deployment sims. Even Ferrari's garage began limiting access to certain files. Because everyone realized the same thing. Mercedes isn't just back. They might be building something no one else saw coming. And here's the part that's changing the narrative. They're not doing it with Hamilton anymore. They're doing it with Russell. He's not the future anymore. He's the now. He's reliable. He's fast. He's sharp. And most of all, he's ready to lead. In the past, George Russell was seen as a development tool. The data guy. The calm presence during a crisis. But now, he's becoming something more dangerous. The anchor of a team that's finding its rhythm again. The driver who doesn't need headlines. Because his laps say everything. And if this continues into Bahrain, the paddock won't be wondering if Mercedes is back. They'll be asking who has the pace to stop them. For years, that role belonged to one man. Lewis Hamilton. The face. The voice. The heartbeat of the team. But in 2026, everything is different. Hamilton is in red. Ferrari red. Chasing his 8th title with a new team, a new crew, a new purpose. And back in Brackley, a quiet transition has already begun. Not with press releases. Not with bold predictions. But with lap after lap of flawless driving. From a man who no longer looks like the number 2. George Russell has always had potential. He's been patient. Disciplined. Measured. But after Barcelona, that potential is turning into something undeniable. Presence. He's not waiting anymore. He's not asking for permission. He's not following in anyone's footsteps. He's setting the tone. And Mercedes? They're responding. You can feel it in the way engineers talk about him now. You can hear it in Toto Wolff's voice. You can see it in the data, not just from this test, but from every run since late 2025. Russell isn't just the future. He's the now. And here's what's truly wild. This is just the beginning. Because Barcelona was only the first step. The rough draft. The early version of a car still being refined, optimized, and unlocked. So if Russell can do this now, with a brand new powertrain, a raw chassis, and only a few hours of running, what happens when the W17 is complete? What happens when he hits Bahrain with full deployment? With real setup data? With actual performance runs? If Mercedes has finally delivered a car that matches Russell's discipline, then this season won't just be about Red Bull versus Ferrari. It might be about something much more personal. The rise of a new leader. And the moment George Russell finally becomes the man the grid has to beat. You can ignore one fast lap. You can explain away one good day. But you cannot ignore what Mercedes just showed in Barcelona. Not when the car finishes every run. Not when the power unit hits target after target. Not when the data from the FIA backs up what the stopwatch already knew. And most of all, not when the driver delivering all of it is not the one everyone was watching. Because while headlines followed Hamilton to Ferrari, while cameras chased Leclerc and Verstappen, George Russell quietly became the most complete driver of winter testing. He didn't need to shout. He didn't need to posture. He didn't even need the fastest lap. All he needed was the car. And now, he has it. The W17 might not look radical on the outside, but underneath, it's a machine built for consistency, for efficiency, for race domination, not highlight reels. It's a car that mirrors Russell himself. Precise, focused, relentless. And that's why this isn't just a promising start. This is a shift. Because in 2026, Mercedes doesn't have to rebuild around a legend. They get to build around a driver who's growing into one. So the next time you hear someone say, Russell's good, but can he lead a team? Point them back to Barcelona. To the car that finished testing early. To the data that made engineers blink twice. To the laps that turned silence into fear. Because if George Russell keeps driving like this, and if Mercedes keeps delivering like this, then the real story of 2026 hasn't even begun yet. But when it does, it starts right here.